Here we go. Setting up our meeting for Facebook Live. I also need to watch my see if I can do this, multitask. All right. I feel like we should be live. Someone's probably going to text me and confirm that we're live as we wait for our audience to build. And
I have a message on my screen saying we are.
oh, well, that must be we are. Oh yeah, look, we're on Facebook, we're live. Okay, so I'm going to go there. Great, and we've got us plus one. I'm going to say that that's probably Nick already tuned in. And I want to get to, yep, Carmen Ward says live, so that must mean we're live. On my end, I'm trying to see if I can get to the screen with questions. So we're going to welcome people to the Scene Cares Children's Education Alliance of Missouri Facebook Live event, helping families cope with the emotional and educational challenges of the coronavirus epidemic that we're all in the middle of. So we're going to give people a few minutes. I'm going to start here with this great panel who you can see right now. It looks like. Maybe we'll just leave it this way. I like this. So currently on Facebook Live, it's showing all five of us. Facebook Live event. Yeah, you got to turn the volume down. All right, I know we're live on Facebook. I'm gonna see if I can find it on my phone and see the comments going. And pull up my own sheet. So as people are joining us, it looks like people are, welcome. We're gonna be taking questions later on. And the comment section is there for you to ask questions and to leave URLs of resources and ideas and Educational Alliance of Missouri. Perfect. Okay, I have a device that's got the comments going. And make sure you've made your tea. You know, they're saying that that's what we want during this time is hot liquids. So I hope you have your tea ready. I think everyone's going to be a tea expert by the time this whole thing is over, staying inside. So, and help us stay on task with, you know, your comments and ideas. I know we all have a lot to say and that there's a lot of speculation, but I just want to remind everyone that tonight we're here for families and we hope that everyone will be into that. Sorry I didn't get dressed up for you, but you know, at least I got dressed. So that's something, right? And we have a great panel here tonight with us, and we're going to get into that just in a second. This is the Children's Education Alliance of Missouri. And oop, 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 oop. All right, and my name is Peter Franzen. I work with Children's Education Alliance of Missouri, and I am going to be moderating this conversation tonight with this fantastic panel that we have. Just A little bit about, why we're doing this. The Children's Education Alliance of Missouri works with parent advocates all around the state, and we support ideas that help parents get access to the education that they need for their kids. But this is an unprecedented time, and we really, as a team, lucky enough to work from home, recognize that we're blessed to be able to do that, and started thinking about what we could be doing that maybe is not, specifically our mission, but is in our lane and is what we should be doing. And we want to be a community resource. So that's what Seam Cares is all about. We put up a resource page for people to check out on the seamteam.org website, CEAM.org/COVID. So there's resources there that you can check out. And we are compiling that list, and we're going to add your ideas to that. And, I just want to say that I think everyone is getting hit by this. There's fallout, and that we really have to be there for each other. And most of all, that we need to be here for the kids. And, coronavirus and this epidemic that we're going through is scary. And I think we have to not be overcome by the fear. It's something that's unpredictable in our lives right now. It seems like it's uncontrollable. We don't know exactly when it's going to end. And all those things, combined especially, make it scary. And what we want to do tonight, though, is take some control to give parents some reassurance and some tools that they can use that we think will be helpful. I hope that everyone is practicing all the CDC recommendations around hygiene regarding the virus, and hopefully that's at least giving you some sense of something that you can do. And that's why tonight we for families that are suddenly dealing with an early extended break from school and kids are in the house, that we want to help you feel a little more control. So I hope that we'll introduce you to some new resources, and that will remind you of some that you already know. So we've got this great panel with us today, and I want you to meet them. I'm going to introduce them, and I have a question for each of them that I'm going to ask to get us started, because this is a panel of folks that I know here in the St. Louis area, and who all jumped at the chance to join us for this. If you're just getting on board, as I see new eyes watching, you're with Children's Education Alliance of Missouri for our panel talk tonight about coping with the emotional and educational challenges of this situation that we're in. So first, I'd like to welcome Julius Anthony. Julius is the president of St. Louis Black Authors for Children's Literature, and he's a former school leader and educator. And I know he can field this question as well as the rest of this panel. So I'm going to present this to you first. Welcome, Julius. And I want to start with this, that we're here to talk about the emotional and educational challenges families are going to face over the next several weeks. My question to you, Julius, is, what is square one for families on this whole thing? What's the first thing that you want families to know and remember, throughout this epidemic?
Well, first, let me say I'm excited to be a part of this experience tonight. This is a wonderful panel, and I happen to know everybody that's on the panel. And hello to everybody out there in Facebook land. Thank you for joining us this evening. But when we think about square one, Peter, I think that you were correct. This is uncharted times, and I know that this could feel a little overwhelming for all of us, but particularly parents and kids. But I think that we should try to be as centered as we can, try to be as calm in this experience as we can, and to just try to get a good daily routine a routine that's filled with a lot of positivity and creativity. Most families have fun together anyway. And so I think that that's what we should continue to do, is to just have fun as we normally do, tell all the jokes that you normally tell at home, have the dinner time at home together, tell stories together, play table games together. Continue your regular life as if, not necessarily as if nothing is going on, because something is going on. But what we want to do is to just remain positive and centered.
Right on, Julius. I appreciate that, and I understand where you're coming from. I want to give that question next to our panelist, Brian Evans. Brian is a child mental health practitioner and a therapist, and he also works for a local school district. But here tonight, especially, we're asking Brian about his take on child mental health. And so, Brian, welcome to you as well. And same question, Brian, from your perspective as a child mental health practitioner and therapist, what do parents, what's the first thing that you want families to know and remember throughout this experience?
That there are going to be, first of all, good evening to everyone, the panel, guests, as well as everyone on joining us on Facebook. One of the things that I think it's most important, that there are going to be some challenges, and to expect anxiety, to expect different questions and from your children and of yourself and of your family, because this has interrupted our norm. I think Julius is correct in regards to keeping a daily routine and keeping life fun as best you can. But because there are going to be challenges and there are going to be some moments. If you're watching the news, if you're watching with your children, if you're watching different things with your teens, your adolescents, your college students, you're going to notice that they're going to come up questions that you may or may not have answers to, like how long is this going to go on and what's going to happen? And those can be very anxiety provoking. I think it's important to tell the absolute truth with a filter. If you the same thing that you would say to a 13-year-old, you would not necessarily say it the same way to someone who's 6. But to keep things in a light of, no, I'm not sure, but let's talk about the possibilities of what can happen, because the more that you're willing to open up and talk about true feelings, the more you combat that anxiety. Anxiety tends to rise with fear, the unknown and what could happen. And if you're watching the news, that can be very anxiety provoking for us as adults, as parents, as caregivers. So of course, if we're not careful, we can also have that in the room with us. But if we talk about what that means, the uncertainty of our times, as well as talking about what are the other possibilities, what have we learned through this? And always asking children, so how are you feeling? Tell me what you experienced, and being open and honest. Well, talking about your job or whatever the situation is. Mom is working at home or dad's working at home, and that has been a change. Being able to talk about that, talk about those things that come about, natural things that happen in life. There are a lot of anniversaries, celebrations that we have, like birthdays and graduations and proms, that are all shifted. And it's not uncommon to feel cheated. So if you feel that has been a change, to be open and honest with your kids about how they feel and how yourself feel and what things that we can do. There's a family that I know, they weren't able to have a celebration for a child turning 17, a pivotal moment in her life as she goes into her senior year. And so they changed it, and with the few that could gather in their home, they had a celebration. Well, the mother had never done TikTok before, so they all tried to do something different and enjoyed it, and they made it very light. And after she had her moment, the young lady had her moment of being tearful about it, she was able to have some fun and still have a very memorable birthday. And that's important, because these anniversaries only come once, and even in this event, we can go ahead and we can celebrate. But it's important to have those conversations. And when we start to notice those things of anxiety, to be able to have those conversations with children and with families.
Right on. Thank you. Thank you, Brian. That's I appreciate the sentiment, and thank you, Julius, so far as well. So we've heard from Julius Anthony. He's with St. Louis Black Authors for Children's Literature, as well as Brian Evans, who's a mental health practitioner and therapist. I'm going to turn now to Ann Deddens. Ann is the founder and school leader of COOR Academy here in the St. Louis area, and I welcome Ann. And Ann, you know, parents whose kids have special needs will have an added layer of effort during this stay-at-home period. And so, from your perspective as a special needs person and school leader, you know, what's the first thing that you want families who have kids with special needs, what's the first thing you want them to know?
So I am going to follow up with routine again. Routine is so important. That predictability helps ease anxiety in kids, older kids, younger kids, even myself as an adult. And also parents need to realize that they are now the expert on their child's homeschooling experience. So whatever routine that works best for their family is what's best for their family. So some families only have one child, some families have 4, some families have 2 parents working. So that routine has to work best for your family. There's so much right now on social media with schedules and lessons, but parents need to pick what's going to work best for them. So along with that, don't compare what you're doing with everyone else, because what you're doing is going to be best for you guys. Within that routine, you're also are going to need some flexibility. Teachers will tell you that they make amazing lesson plans, plan out a great day, and suddenly moods change and you have to be flexible. So if you planned a math activity, still do a math activity, but you might have to change it based off of how the kid's mood is that day. Scaffold the schedule. Make sure you're putting in non-preferred activities before preferred activities. So they want to work towards that preferred activity. Set up reward systems for younger kids. Don't worry about trying to get through too many subjects in a day. You can alternate. And I also want to say, again, have fun and play. Play is the most amazing way to learn. Learning isn't just rigorous paper pencil tasks. It could be cooking, games, writing a musical and performing it on social media, journaling. So make sure that you're incorporating a lot of hands-on opportunities as well, because those are more memorable and kids are going to learn from those.
Awesome, thank you. And that's, I just think, important for people to remember. And what I hear all of you saying, trying to maintain some sense of normalcy and normal family life, and at the same time recognizing that these are unusual circumstances. In particular, I think about, you know, families who are going to feel a lot of pressure when they look around and they see news stories and they know what's happening in other parts of the country or even other parts of the region, where, you know, there are school districts that are entirely prepared for this and have sent their kids home with Chromebooks, and other districts that are not in that same situation. And you know, I think there's a lot of stress that comes along, you know, with this. So if you're just joining us, the Children's Education Alliance of Missouri are Facebook Live to talk about the emotional and educational challenges of this situation that we're in. I want to turn now, so you've heard from 3 of our 4 panelists. The 4th panelist is Alex Stallings from the 9 Network of Public Media, and that's where she is the Community Engagement Manager for Early Childhood Education. And the question I have for you, Ann, is the same one that we've been having here, which is, you know, what's the first things that you want families to know and remember as we try to adjust to this, hopefully brief but new normal?
Well, I suppose that the best way for me to start, the most fitting way for me to start, is actually in the tradition of Mr. Rogers. So his show launched, and had important episodes that aired in the year 1968, a very tumultuous year when parents were facing similar challenges of what to communicate to children and how to be reassuring in a time without a lot of assurances. And one of the statements that he made, and one of the sentiments that he operated his show from, is that if it's mentionable, it's manageable. If it's mentionable, it's manageable. And so those who've joined us here tonight, the parents, the community members, stakeholders, you're here for the discussion, and you're here for the exchange and the power that can come of community. And I think that that's really important for us tonight, and that it will be very important for parents as they move forward with their children. Many of the other panelists have said that it is important to communicate with kids in a very real way and make sure that you are keeping those lines of communication open. PBS does have a wealth of resources, but we know that it is a time of immense pressure and a lot of information coming quickly and a lot of advice. And as Ann mentioned, a lot of charts and graphs and recommendations for parents right now. So we actually distilled the information that we have into the 9net.org learning toolkits. And so that's a place that parents can go and educators can go to take what they need right now and come back when they're ready for more.
Well, Alex, let me stay with you then and just kind of follow up, because I'm a fan of PBS, and we were just talking about with or without online access, depending on the home. And I know that there are now some resources to get to get home internet established for free for a limited period of time. But Channel 9, I know you guys don't like that. Channel 9, the 9 network for public media, reaches into homes, across the region. And so my question, and I'm going to pull this up on the screen for you while you're talking, but how can the 9 network support, a parent's desire to keep literacy going in the home? Is there any special programming? And for people who don't know, anything about the PBS Kids, I don't know if everyone's on. I feel like so many people are on cable. If you're getting broadcast television like I do here in my kitchen, I'm actually getting 4 channels from Channel 9, from the 9 network, including PBS Kids. And are there other, you just alluded to this, I'm going to take the screen while you're talking, and I have the 9 network website pulled up. So let me just go ahead and tell us about some of that.
Sure. So I mentioned that word manageability. And so we designed the toolkit in a way that it is in a manageable form. So you can access it and you can decide what works for you, because we have, if you're ready for the deep dive of learning resources, there's PBS Learning Media. If you are interested in what you're watching, and you can watch on phones, on tablets, we are where you are 24/7. If you're interested in the shows, we all have the show that we grew up with. Mine is Reading Rainbow. But you may not know that for the shows that are on air, there are learning goals that have already been attached, that they're research-based, that they are connected with lesson plans. And so we've made that clear for this toolkit as well. If you are getting through day by day and you are interested in receiving bite-sized tips that are tailored to the age of your child, you can text the word CARE to 274448, and that's Bright by Text, and the resources will come to you. So you actually enter the age of your child, anywhere prenatal to 8, and the tips will come, and that's brain development, stress relief, learning media across the board. So we've tried to make it as accessible as possible. So it is both over the air, but also on your phone as well.
Perfect. And I just got a message from Amy Shaw. She says it's okay if I call it Channel 9. So, Julius, let me ask you, you were a founding principal at a local school, and you're an educator, as well as your role now establishing the Believe Project libraries of African-American centered children's literature in schools around the area. But now we're not in those schools, which I know is kind of heartbreaking. You put all that work into getting these libraries established in schools. How can families keep literacy going in the home during this unusual period? What are your recommendations to parents about that?
So I guess the first thing to understand is that literacy isn't just reading. Literacy is bigger than that. So we like to say that literacy includes 6 elements, and we get that notion from the International Literacy Association, and it says to us that literacy is seeing, speaking, using your voice, visual expression. It's also reading and writing and listening. And so when you think about the kinds of things that families just typically do at home, we're always in a mode of literacy development, literacy facilitation. And it's about thinking about those things. So when I spoke earlier about just families getting together and tell stories, that's really how literacy is socialized within our society. It begins in the home. And so it's important that parents have conversations with kids and allow them to tell stories themselves. A lot of homes don't have books, and we do have some communities that we call, or we say have book deserts. And so in those kinds of situations, you want to create your own stories. Anne talked about creating your own song, doing the play, putting that on social media. All of that is literacy development. And I think just to echo another thing that Anne said, we have to really be easy on ourselves and not really get caught up in all the Chromebook stuff that they send home, the big, thick ditto packets that they send home for kids to do. Do that if you choose to do that, but also try to make sure that learning is fun at home. It really is about keeping that environment positive and doing all kinds of things to just stretch this whole idea about literacy being bigger than books, but literacy is books as well. So if you have books in the home, take time to read them. There are all kinds of other resources online now where there are folks that are reading stories to children. As a matter of fact, Ready Readers has just started a series. I don't know if Sheila is watching tonight, but she's with Ready Readers and she's doing some great work in that way. St. Louis Black Authors, we're pulling our authors together and we're going to be doing some what we call book share vlogs, where our authors will be reading their stories and offering really creative activities that kids can do that are connected to those books. But what I want families to know is that think broader, think creative, keep it positive, keep it fun. And I think that all of us will get through this period a little better if we just think positive and creative.
I have myself on mute, but I still appreciate that. Trying to master the nuances here of Zoom and make this work. If you're joining us just now on Facebook Live, this is the Children's Education Alliance of Missouri, and we're talking about the emotional and educational challenges that come with this situation that we're all in, this stay-at-home order. Schools are closed. A lot of families, well, all families, finding themselves with their kids unexpectedly at the house. And I want to encourage any of you who are watching, if you have a question for any of our panelists or me, definitely get those in the comments section. I'm watching them here, and my staff is watching and responding online as well. Anne Deddens from Coeur Academy. It just has to be, I mean, everyone has stress, so I guess we don't want to compare who's got the most stress. But, you know, when you think about the broad range of special needs from physical to intellectual to behavioral and combinations of all those, you know, building on what you said initially, you know, is there advice for parents with special needs, young people in the home, and you know, are there resources and is respite even available right now? Any of that kind of stuff? What do you know what's happening with that? I know it's early in the game here.
It is pretty early in the game, so I'm not really sure how respite is looking. I think families would need to reach out to trusted individuals, caseworkers, Easter Seals ARC, to find out what's still being offered. So as this goes on, parents are going to need respite. So that's something I think we need to really look into and help parents with. But parents need to feel free to vent and to complain and laugh. And I think that's the best way to get through it, is to talk to other people, because I know other parents are going to go through the same struggles. Reach out to teachers. Teachers want to help provide any resources they can, help set up schedules, reward systems. So I think parents just need to feel vulnerable and reach out to get what they need.
Well, and I guess it would vary from child to child, Anne, but I mean, if we can't reach out to each other physically and be there, and, you know, all of that comes with concerns, you know, if families have access to technology, for some kids, is there value in that? I mean, will a live interaction via the computer, does that help? And can that alleviate some of the stress on a parent?
Yes, and actually our school is planning on doing that. We're going to do a test run later this week where kids can get on Zoom and reach out to each other and just see each other, because I think there's a lot of anxiety of what's going on with their friends. So if they can just see each other through the technology, that would be amazing. And we are going to try and do some classes next week with all of our students, whatever their ability is, because we know all kids are fascinated by technology and looking into a screen. So if they can see us and perhaps learn while looking at us, that's our goal. So yes, there is value.
All right, thank you, Anne. And I know Brian is using the technology the way we planned, and he's got his hand up here on Zoom. And I'm unmuting you, Brian. And in a second here, I'm going to unmute the whole panel. Folks, I've just been doing that because the way Zoom works is when somebody talks, the camera goes to them, and we're just trying to make sense of who's talking so you can see them. Brian Evans, I'll remind you, is a mental health practitioner and child mental health practitioner and therapist. Brian, what do you have to add to this?
Well, I want to make sure that people still, some of the information that I provided earlier today was regarding to BHR, behavioral health response, as well as BJC behavioral health and Hopewell, which are two of our community mental health agencies. BHR has a number of different services, and many of their services are already prepared. They were already doing work where someone could call in and receive services, or you can go online and do online chat or email for information. So there may be times when you need someone else to provide some help and assistance, and you want to know where you can go. So if you're not sure about how to contact a clinician because you're seeing something or you have a question, behavioral health response is an excellent way to just get started. And then, of course, if you're already involved and you have a case manager, BJC Behavioral Health, as well as Hopewell Center, you can go and access their websites, but they also provide an array of services where case managers, clinicians are already doing face-to-face interaction with their clientele. So those are two places to start. And I think that's important to know, particularly around the crisis line. So some of the what next or what if questions that parents have is that you already have mental health professionals answering the lines for BHR and can let you know what, if any, what services are available, what you can expect when you're calling, the wait time, particularly when we start talking about respite services or whatever health services, or if a child is in crisis and may need some other assistance. I can't speak to how their crisis mobile assistance is working at this point, but certainly they can direct you to mental health agencies or services in your area. And so I want to make sure that that is upfront for those. And then also for children, as well as individuals, if you're dealing with a crisis in regards to depression or suicide, there's also the suicide hotline, which also has an online chat system as well, 1-800-273-TALK. Though that's the number, but there's also a place where you can go and access them online and do a chat. So these are avenues where mental health agencies are already making their services available.
Brian, tell us a little more. What should parents, be looking for? I mean, I know we've just established that parents are, not classroom teachers, and
Mhm.
but parents are parents, and they're there with the kids, and they can notice things about a kid's behavior. And what are some, I don't know if the right word is warning signs, but as this drags on, and all the things that you've said about grieving the loss of special events, grieving the loss of not being in the room with classmates, and all of those things, what are signs that parents could be looking for, and what should they do if they think that their child is depressed or?
Well, let's just say many people don't actually meet all the criterion, the diagnostic criterion for depression, but a lot of anxiety that you can see. So generalized anxiety, and some of those things that you can see in kids, where you see them all of a sudden becoming angry, where they become upset, throwing tantrums, throwing fits, where you see the anger, isolating themselves, refusing to come outside of their room, refusing to socialize. These are some of the key markers for there's a change in their behavior. If you all of a sudden notice they were talkative and now suddenly they're not talkative, they're not communicating, that's just a sign that something's up with them. And not being fearful to ask the question, hey, I noticed a change. How are you dealing with this change in your life? Because for many of our kids, the socialization, which is what school pretty much is their socialization, has been taken away from them. And how do you explain to James or Carl or Susan about not being able to go see their friends right now because of this pandemic situation that we're in? So there's a lot of those kinds of things. And how are they communicating with their peers? So if these are some of the questions that you're concerned about, to raise those questions. Then if you start noticing some other behaviors that you haven't seen, if you notice some behaviors in regards to talk of death. Now, in this situation, let's say, for example, a family member has to be hospitalized and they're in serious illness and they're concerned about it and they're not able to vent properly in regards to that, then that raises some questions. But if you see that turning inside, where they're talking about their own demise, that's a question to talk about more about that. And again, always reaching out to mental health professionals about other areas, which is one of the reasons why I'm saying BHR is a good avenue to say, hey, I see this change. What should I do next? Or even calling the suicide prevention hotline. And just in terms of my kid may not be experiencing these signs, but I'm seeing something that I'm not certain what's going on. These are some questions. Isolation, again, those things in regards to anger. You notice eating habits. They're eating more, or they're eating less, or not eating at all, and all of a sudden you notice that their appetites have changed. If you're paying attention to what they're going on online and social media, what they're doing with their time, what sites they're visiting, and be welcome to walk into their world and let them take you to what interests them. I'm going to go to Julius, who talked about literacy being more than reading books. This is a perfect time to introduce them writing and, in journals and talking and being able to express themselves and learning from that. It's also a great way for them to use that technology to make videos and talk about what their feelings are, and if they would be, open to sharing that with you. To help them to talk about their different feelings. And a lot of times you'll notice what their thoughts are there as well.
Perfect, Brian. I see where I'm using my literacy context cues here, and I'm going to say that Heather Nason, who commented, she said, I use Class Dojo. I'm going to say she's a teacher. I use Class Dojo and posted a picture a parent sent to me of their child who lost their first tooth, and the other parents and children in the class loved seeing their friend. And I bet that's true. I mean, that's the kind of thing we're talking about, is using technology.
Right. Yeah.
So if anyone of our audience, if you have questions for any of the panelists, we're coming up on 7:35. So I do want to give everyone a chance, though, to, Heather says yes. I'm going to say, yes, I got it right. Thank you, Heather. And I'm going to give you guys a chance to, at least with some closing thoughts. Alex from the 9 Network, what are your thoughts as far as the 9 network resources? What do you really want to remind parents of?
Sure. First of all, Heather is an amazing teacher. I know her, and she's part of our PBS cohort. So I'm thrilled about that lost tooth and that way she connected community. To that point about community, I think the final thought really is that even though we are asked to be alone, to be separate, we are not alone. And not alone in this panel, not alone in this conversation, and that organizations, individuals, community leaders are here for you, are here for families, are here for parents. And so Anne mentioned about the vulnerability to speak up, I believe. And so I think really that's what it is. So reach out to the organizations that you see on this panel, reach out to us personally, and know that the conversation can continue from tonight, that even things like toolkits, other resources, phone numbers can all be discussed, and we can work through this all together.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, that's right. You know, I meant earlier, speaking of resources, I mentioned the SEAM team page. I just want to show that to you right quick. This is seamteam.org/COVID. And we've assembled and continue to assemble resources. Did I already show this? Now it feels like deja vu. Resources for schools and online educational resources for families, dealing with financial impact, keeping kids engaged, some more advice for parents, and the latest information from the CDC. So you can go there to seamteam.org/COVID. We also have a page at seamteam.org /SEAM Cares. If you're in a position to make a donation to our COVID Family Relief Fund. In our work, we know a lot of families personally and are aware of their situations and don't normally have the budget bandwidth to assist families, but we're making this special effort. So seamteam.org/SEAM Cares if you're interested in making that kind of donation. Julius, I saw you had your hand up, and I'm also going to ask you some final thoughts that you want to leave people with.
Right, I had my hand up because I wanted to mention a couple of more resources. So Metro Theater is a place that parents can go and find some great suggestions around how to use theater and drama in literacy ways. And they also have a page where they've listed other resources that parents could use to continue working on all kinds of things around literacy. So wanted to throw that out there. We talked about Ready Readers. And then I want to make a commitment from St. Louis Black Authors of Children's Literature. Our website is stlblackauthors.com. If you go there, you'll see a listing of our titles. If there are families that are in need of books, you can contact us through our website, or you can contact us on our Facebook page, and we will do our best to get some books to you.
Yeah, no kidding. And in fact, Julius, you're the right person for this. Speaking about the books, Kim Perkins-Sobeck in our audience is saying, that she's seen all these wonderful online and interactive resources to share with her kids. And I know that they'll love them, but how worried should we be about overloading them with screen time?
That's a very good point. Now, I'm only going to speak on Julius. This is a Julius thing. For me, I think literacy encompasses a lot of stuff, and whatever your child has interest in, use that to build literacy skills. So if it's screen time, use it. Don't fight against it. It's still good to kind of steer them toward, having a book in their hand and all of those other kinds of things, but use what interests them, particularly at this time than what we're dealing with right now and trying to figure out ways that our kids can be productive at home. You can use screen time to continue learning. That's not a bad thing. So parents, be easy with it. Go with the flow. If that's what kids are interested in, my opinion is to let it be.
Okay, I appreciate
Well,
that.
let's see what some of the other panelists say, but
No,
that's
I
my
agree.
perspective.
And yeah, I want you guys to know that we're all live right now. I switched up the view, so this is our panel. That's me talking, Julius below me. That's Brian Evans at the bottom. That's Alex. Oh, we got names. Never mind. All right, look, we're all wearing name tags. We're good. Any other thoughts from the panel about screen time? And I hear what you're saying, Julius, about getting lax with that, but maybe it's also, maybe we don't have to sit in front of a TV all the time either and watch mindless programming if what we're getting is some good stuff too. But
Well, screen time is not necessarily a separate time. So if we are thinking of a way that children are sent to another room, or they're in another room and a parent is taking care of things, that's just one way to look at it, because really there's such value in what we would call co-viewing, so that the parent is there, the adult is there, the caregiver is right there with them, talking through everything that they're seeing and making sense of the world and asking questions and continuing the conversation. And it can be such an opportunity. Wildcrats is one for our household, for our boys. And so talking about the animals that you're seeing, looking up more about the animals after the show has ended. So it really isn't about the screen itself. It is about staying connected to your child during the viewing.
Hear, hear.
Yeah, I agree. Conversation and discussion is a very important part of learning. So I agree.
and if you're tuned into, not to make this a commercial for PBS, but if you're tuned into PBS Kids, there's a lot of opportunities, to do that, not just put the kids in front of Sesame Street or in front of Mr. Rogers or in front of I'm dating myself.
Yes, you are.
They're still on
There's
those,
a whole lot of new stuff since then.
But to, sit there and watch it with them and talk about it. And right. And Heather Nason was also commenting, Julius, that what you were saying, that just talking with children, will help increase their vocabulary. And that is true. We didn't really talk about that, but to the extent that, parents enjoy reading, one of the joys that I always shared at summer camp was my love of reading. And I would read to groups of campers. And I know that I could read a couple of grade levels above what their comprehension level might be, and that they were, learning throughout that. So read to the kids too. And other final thoughts here as we get ready to hang it up?
Just the same, that the parents, you guys are the experts in your home, so do what you need to do to have your child learn. Be easy on yourself. Don't give yourself a hard time if you feel like it's not going well. Kids learn. They'll learn. The brain is an amazing organ. They're going to be fine as long as you're engaging with them and having discussions. They're going to be fine.
Good deal. Anyone else, Brian?
One of the things that I know in City of St. Louis that that they've asked us to stay at home, but stay at home did not mean that you had to stay inside, and that you can utilize being outside. In certain areas, they're even saying that we can go to our parks. And St. Louis is a beautiful place to go and visit, like the Grand Basin or just other areas that you can go out and have an opportunity with your family and practice social distance as well with others. But it's also an opportunity to experience that and get outside and get some exercise, get some fresh air, do some exercise. I'm going to date myself, maybe learn how to jump double dutch with your kids, all those kinds of things. But when was the last time you got outside and you actually had fun with your kids doing something in the open, and it was just you as a team? To have that kind of experience, but to make sure that you utilize that. And every opportunity is a learning opportunity in community. So I'm all about literacy in regards to those family times. When you're cooking dinner, this is a great time to invite everyone in to do that and to have those kinds of social experiences where we're talking around the table, which is how our communities have oftentimes healed themselves over various things. And then the last thing that I would bring is reflect on the times that your family or your community or your culture has experienced a traumatic experience and how they overcame. Because just as we have experienced in this, we will overcome it. and we will get through it and we will learn from it. So it's important to think about those things that we have done as a culture, as a people, as a society, as a group, and to reflect on that and not just be in the sense of thinking about what's going on. We have history that says that we're overcomers.
That's awesome. You're right. You're right. I really appreciate the four of you, Alex Stallings from the Nine Network, Ann Deddens from Kerr Academy, Julius Anthony from St. Louis Black Authors for Children's Literature, and therapist Brian Evans as well, for being here and giving us your take on things. And, we had a nice solid audience for our program and our Facebook Live event, and we're going to probably continue to come back next week, same time. We're hoping to have a parent panel and hear from some parents what they're actually experiencing and what resources are working for them. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. And thanks, everybody who was watching today. All the resources that were mentioned today, the staff at Scene Team has been putting those in the comment section, so they're there. All the phone numbers, Brian, that you provided, and Julius, your website, and Alex, the PBS website as well. So all that's in there, and so you can go check that out. This is going to be recorded and on the Scene Facebook page. So thank you, everyone, again, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.